videos about how the salt is your enemy and we can literally touch anything. If a patient has heart disease, everything has salt in it and it's all fear. But hopefully,
Moderation, we can still have the treats, but most of the time we want to make the really good choices. So, yes.
has been very popular and we think, oh, it's all fruits, it's all nuts.
Prosciutto. And so, if you can go with
Hi, everyone, and welcome to On the Beat with Priya. We have Mrs. Margaret McDonald, our special guest here today, to talk about everything heart health and nutrition. She's amazing to hear from her, and I know you all do too, at All Things Dietitian and a registered dietitian with over 40 years of experience that is almost as old as I am. Her experience speaks volume, clinical nutrition and wellness specialist, mcdonaldnutritions.com. Please go visit her website, learn more about her from there. And she is an absolute goat at heart health and healthy eating. This is her forte. Here is Margaret McDonald. Please welcome. And hi, Margaret. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me as a guest.
Of course, we are so excited to talk about all of the classic things. We've all watched the TikTok videos about how the salt is your enemy, and we can literally touch anything. If a patient has heart disease, everything has salt in it, and it's all fear. But hopefully, in this conversation, clarity into what we can eat, and hopefully, you help us realize that with easy, simple substitution, we can keep trying to do better. Consistency is also important.
Yes, consistency and moderation. So, everything in moderation, we can still have the treats, but most of the time we want to make the really good choices. So,
Okay.
yes.
So please help us, our teachers, here and leading foot forward with knowledge. Mediterranean diet, as soon as we talk about heart health and DASH diet, I know those two are big topics. But if we can go into a little bit about what the Mediterranean diet is, I know we enjoy the thought of Greece and wine and cheese and all things rainbow, but can you go into a little bit detail and tell us what we should include and avoid those big pitfalls in those diet too?
Yes, so the Mediterranean diet is basically going to be lean, healthy meats, a lot of fish, and then plant-based protein as well. And then we want to include the rainbow of vegetables and fruits and whole grains, including the oats and the whole grain breads and the whole grain pastas. And those are going to be the better choices. And then, of course, nuts and seeds are included, healthy oils and the healthy fats like olive oil and avocado oil. So those are basically what the Mediterranean diet is. And then when we're thinking about heart health, we also need to remember the DASH diet, which is the dietary approaches to stop hypertension. So big word, acronym for a lot, but basically it's watching out for sodium. And sodium is what's going to affect our blood pressure. So we eat the healthy fats and the healthy foods for our heart, and then we stay away from sodium for our blood pressure, which works together for our heart, right? So that's gonna be really watching out for. So our fresh fruits and vegetables and even fresh meat don't have any sodium added to it. But when we start adding things and when we start preserving and processing is when the salt gets added. So we need to watch out for that.
I know in recent years the charcuterie board has been very popular, and we think, oh, it's all fruits, it's all nuts, and a little bit of cheese here. It's as healthy as it sounds. Is it really that heart friendly, or are we going down a rabbit hole that we should eat in moderation with that charcuterie board and these parties?
So there can be better choices and not as good choices on the charcuterie board. So you do want to be careful with all the processed meats that we like to put on there, like the prosciutto. And so if you can go with fresher meats, even make your own meat and slice it to put on there. But also, when you're thinking of these, cheese is pretty high in sodium. So pick some of the lower sodium cheeses like Swiss cheese, mozzarella, maybe some mozzarella sticks, and then also goat cheese. I like to get the little goat cheese logs and wrap it in the, blueberries or even cranberries, the dried cranberries. So that can bring a little sugar, but you know. And then I like to, on my charcuterie boards, put a lot of little berries and some fresh vegetables like carrot sticks and celery sticks. So integrate some healthy things, and of course the nuts, but do the unsalted nuts or the very low,
Thank you.
lightly salted nuts. So that's going to give you the healthy fats. So you can still have a little bit of the meat on there, but you're also going to have the healthier cheeses. And you can include some of the other hard cheeses, which do have some benefits, like they are going to be fermented, even though they still aren't going to have the active cultures. They're still going to be good for your GI tract. But you do need to keep in mind that the hard cheeses are going to bring some sodium. And then olives, which are on the Mediterranean diet and we all love, you do have to remember they're going to add a little salt as well. So just be careful, have a few olives, and then maybe even try to get ones that are maybe packaged with a little less sodium. So turn around the package, look at the label, and see if you can determine how much sodium is in there. Then what you have with it, the crackers, we need to think about those too. If you can find some whole grain crackers or the ones that are made with almond flour or the ones that are made with the rye crisps, or some of those are going to be, uh, um, sourdough bread crisps are a good choice too, because sourdough is going to be a little lower in sodium, and then lightly or unsalted crackers. I also like the Triscuits, hint of salt Triscuits. They have a little bit of sodium, but they have a lot of, all they are is flour, oil, and a little bit of salt. So go for those kinds of crackers instead of some of the ones that we might want to choose that are more processed with salt on them.
Oh, that sounds delicious. I'm already hungry. But the gist of it is go for the less sodium and a lot more fresher ingredients and see if we can prepare the board with that in mind, with fresher vegetable and fresher meats and better cracker choices. Am I right in saying that? And goat cheese
Yes,
it
and
is.
lots of colors. So, and
Lots of
even you can
colors.
put a little dish of hummus on there. I
Okay.
like to do that too with my carrots and maybe some strips of peppers. Peppers
Hmm.
have so many vitamins and minerals too. The bright
Okay.
colors in fruits and vegetables are what give them all the phytonutrients that are good for us. So go for the
Wonderful.
rainbow.
Yeah, go for the rainbow. So, I know we mentioned sodium and we touched into it a little bit. Nobody wants to hear about it, but if you can just tell us a little bit about the salt shakedown, you know,
So sodium is a little bit difficult, and when we get put on a low sodium, no added salt diet, that's around 3,500 milligrams of sodium. So lots of numbers. But what you want to do is not add the salt shaker at the table. And then when you are thinking about the fresh fruits and vegetables, you're fine. But when you go to for frozen vegetables, for instance, stay away from the things that have the added sauce, the butter sauces and the cream sauces. And that goes for at the restaurant. That goes for any time. The gravies, the cream sauces, the butter sauces are all going to be adding that sodium. And then every time they process the food and make it shelf stable, for instance, if you're having pasta, I always recommend whole grain pasta. Make it yourself and lightly salt or do not salt your water, and instead of picking the box of macaroni and cheese mix, because that's going to have loaded with sodium, and those soup mixes and all of those things. If you can make them homemade, anytime you can make something homemade, then you are controlling the amount of sodium. But when you're eating out, that's when there's a little bit of a minefield. So always go for the broiled or the grilled and stay away from the sauces. If you want a taste of the sauce, ask for it on the side. And that goes for your salads as well. So salads with plenty of vegetables in them, remember, don't have any sodium until you add all those toppings like bacon and croutons and and cheese and all the yummy things that we like to put on the salads. So either omit those things or ask for them on the side so that you can control how much you're getting. You can still enjoy a great salad that, and then just control the amount of dressing. And another thing that I always tell my clients and patients and friends is when you're eating the dressing, put just a little bit on, toss. When you think you've tossed enough, toss some more, because you can get away with so much less dressing if you just use a little and toss and coat. And even just drizzling a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of balsamic vinegar or red wine vinegar or something like that, toss. Then you can add Mrs. Dash or another kind of herb combination, any kind of herbs and spices you like. But just remember, you would pick garlic powder, not garlic salt, and you would pick onion powder, not onion salt. Anything with the word salt in it, obviously, you're going to watch out for. But herb combinations, most of the time, are not going to have sodium in them unless they say they do. So, but do
That's
look out for
wonderful.
that. And then
Yeah.
when you're reading your sodium label, so in general, I mean, trying to stay away from too much sodium, but any individual in serving size, like a piece of bread, you want it to have between 140 and 200 max milligrams of sodium. So if you're looking at a bread or you're looking at a serving of something that is processed, just if it goes over 200 milligrams of sodium or 250 for sure, it's going to add up over the day and you're going to end up with too much sodium. So when we're trying to do that, I mean, the Heart Association gives pretty strict guidelines, and when you do stay away from a lot of sodium, it is going to be better for your health. So just, pace yourself. If you're going to go out to dinner, you're going to get a little bit more, even if you're going to someone's home, because everybody puts salt in their food to make it taste better. So
Right.
if you stay away from the gravies and sauces, you go light on the dressings and go with the lean grilled and the steamed vegetables, or even the roasted vegetables. Roasting gives nice caramelization and really makes the vegetables taste great. Then just don't salt them. Use the herbs and spices to bring out the flavor. Lemon juice brings out the flavor. So do things like that. And when you're eating with other people, maybe they know that you're watching your sodium, but certainly, and you don't have to be the problem person at the table, but when you have the opportunity, maybe double your vegetables and stay away from the mashed potatoes. Even though they taste great, they probably have a lot of cream. They probably have a lot of sodium, especially if they put some bacon in there, cheese, you know. So just go with double vegetables. You can have your potatoes at home when you control it. So,
Right. Those mashed potatoes are delicious when we get them at the restaurant, but they do have a lot of
yes.
stuff in them. But yeah, those are great substitutions again, just to watch out for how we can swap them out. And there is better seasoning out there other than salt. And I love hearing that. I did forget one thing before we started is the medical disclaimer. I do want to go into it so that we remind everyone who is watching today that the following program is for education and informational purpose only, and it does not constitute medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider, like Mrs. McDonald here for Nutrition Health, with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition and before undertaking a new diet or exercise regime. And at the end of the podcast, we will make sure we leave Mrs. McDonald's information for you to reach out to her and learn more about this. Those were two heavy topics right there. This is why you are the best at what you do. You gave us all the information, the substitution. This is just exactly what I wanted to hear and for our viewers to hear too. So, and just to give an example of what, a 1500 milligram of sodium looks like, it's basically half a teaspoon. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, about two-thirds of a teaspoon, I think. And so
Oh,
so just think about that when you're shaking the salt shaker. And just
right.
remember that the natural fruits, vegetables, the way we get them, do not have any sodium. And then when you're adding the bread to your meal, just pay attention, because bread is going to bring a little sodium with us. And you're going to want to make the heart healthy choice, getting the whole grain roll or getting the sourdough roll over the regular roll that, may be covered in butter, and, the yeast roll that tastes so yummy.
Yeah.
But the better choice would be the sourdough bread, whole wheat roll. Yeah.
And would you forgive us if we went overboard 1 or 2 days here and there, but we stayed good all year long?
Yes, and everything in moderation. And even when I'm planning to go out at night, I'm really behaving myself earlier in the day and paying attention so that I really low in the sodium and low in the fat, and so that I can, have a little bit of a treat when I go out. I know
Okay.
sometimes people are intimidated to even invite me over for dinner because they're afraid that I'm going to judge what they're feeding me. But I do not judge. I do not judge. I do give advice, yes, but I
You
would
will
never
be a
judge.
difficult guest to have, but I would love to have you over anytime. Great conversations at the dinner table. But while we're still on that topic, what would you, if I visited your home, what would be the kind of low glycemic superstars or healthy fats that you would include in the meal that we have?
So I would probably serve you salmon, because a grilled salmon, because it is full of good nutrients. Like, it has omega-3 fatty acids, which are hard for us to get, and we all need it for heart health, for health of our eyes and our skin, everything, and our veins and vessels. So, and
Okay.
then I would probably have a little, drizzle a little olive oil on it. I'd probably serve you a salad with plenty of greens, and like we talked about, plenty of greens and not the toppings that we talked about, and one of those light dressings. I would probably serve you a grain with it. I love all of those whole grains like quinoa and farro and bulgur and all those. So I get the grain combinations, or sometimes I get wild rice, and
Okay.
so I'll just be real careful when when I'm using the broth. It's going to be a low sodium broth that I cook it in, and then I'll serve you probably sourdough or whole wheat bread, and probably roasted vegetables. I do love roasted vegetables, and sometimes I like to throw maybe some sweet potatoes or carrots in there to get some extra, you know, yellow and orange vegetables. And then I would do a light dessert. Like, I like desserts, and so sometimes I might do something dark chocolate with some fruit on it. So,
I love
yeah.
desserts too. Who says no to sweet? But
Yes, and a
those
little
low
bit of dark
glycemic,
chocolate is okay too, even for your heart.
yes.
So, yes.
Yes, absolutely. The what is it? What's the word for the dark chocolates?
Phytonutrients, yes. So
There
those
we
are like
go.
super
There we go.
tart
Thank you.
macro and micronutrients. And then as far as glycemic index, that's something we want to think about all day long. So berries have, the way they're processed, they have a chemical that makes our blood sugar not rise as fast. So glycemic index means how fast your glucose goes up after you eat the food. So what
Okay.
you want to do, the glycemic index is from 1 to 100, and white bread is 100, and
Oh
sugar
wow.
is about 90. And
Oh
what you want to
geez.
do is get foods that are 55 or less.
Okay.
So what's going to fall in that category is going to be dark green leafy vegetables and fruits, berries, and even some of the other fruits. And you can look that up and see what fruits are in there. But a lot of your dark green leafy vegetables like broccoli and spinach, the bell peppers that I was talking about, even oranges, cherries, and some of the other fruits are going to be lower glycemic index as well. And then like date syrup and raw honey are going to be on the lower end, like closer to the higher end of low glycemic index. But you can use
I am
date syrup, and you can
surprised.
use raw, not processed honey, but raw honey, and then you can use pure maple syrup instead of the processed, syrups. And those things are going to give you a little sweetness as well. And then
Yeah.
sometimes when I'm trying to have sweetness on, say, oatmeal, or even if I make some whole wheat pancakes or something like that, I'll cook down some berries, put a little bit of water in it, and maybe some chia seeds to thicken it up a little bit. And you
Yeah.
can use that as a syrup. But think about glycemic index as far as trying to keep away from the peaks and valleys of your blood sugar. So when you eat naturally, your blood sugar is going to go up, and then you're going to release insulin to make it go down. So you'll stay kind of level overnight or over the
Okay.
course of time. Whereas if you eat a sugar food or bread, then it's going to shoot way up. You're going to have to release insulin, and then but you have these peaks and then these valleys. That's when you feel tired. So if you eat the dark green leafy vegetables, and especially high fiber foods and the healthy fats, that slows your digestion. It all enters your bloodstream a little more slowly. So even picking sourdough bread and the sprouted grain breads and the
Okay.
breads that have less sugar in them, like, some whole wheat breads, are going to also be slower at letting your blood sugar go up. So basically following the Mediterranean diet, where you're eating whole grains and fruits and vegetables, lean meats, and the healthy fats, are going to keep your blood sugar more level. And we haven't even talked about dairy foods, but Greek yogurt is a superstar in my book. It has a lot of protein in it, and I get the non-fat kind, but you can get the low-fat kind. But any fat that's going to be in any of these dairy products is animal fat, and I like to stay away from that and get my healthy fat in the nuts and the seeds and the olives and the avocados and those things. So I will often do that, and I like to get my protein also from cottage cheese. So I get the lower fat cottage cheese, 1% or non-fat, and you can get protein that way too. So the low fat Greek yogurt and cottage cheese is having its moment right now, and it is great. But also the Greek yogurt is a way to get your protein too. So yeah.
Yes, we do see those advertisements a lot in the TV. But, for people like me, I recently found out that I have a huge allergy to dairy. It's a complete exclusion from my diet. What would you advise for someone like me? Like, I can't do any dairy, but I could do nuts that are not salted. But
Yes, and
I,
you can do the um, nut yogurts and the nut milks and those kinds of things too. Now, when you're
okay,
doing that, you need to remember that you're not getting the extra calcium, vitamin A, vitamin D that they add to some of those foods, like milk. They add vitamin A and D to it, and
okay,
the dairy products are going to bring the calcium. So you're going to need to get your calcium somewhere else, which is going to be in the like anchovies that have the bones,
okay,
or calcium you can get from dark green leafy vegetables. And
okay,
then you might consider supplementation, but certainly talk to your doctor before you go on calcium supplements. But I would venture to say that most women don't get enough calcium. And so most
yeah,
of my patients, I recommend them have a chat with their doctor about calcium. So,
okay.
and
We
vitamin
want
D, you
good
need to get the
bone
vitamin
health,
D with it. So,
right?
yes,
Right.
we need to remember our bone
We
health along with our heart health. Yeah.
right? Because the more we move and we keep that bone health, the better it is for our heart. So it all plays together.
Yes. It
So
all of
I
our
love,
body, the neck bone's connected to the arm bone. Yes, that's the way it
yes,
goes.
the song
All connected.
again. So we were talking about the healthy fats and the low GI index, which is the glycemic index superstar. And I love how you gave scores. This is the one score we don't want it to be on the high end. We actually want to score low. As for all the high achievers out there, don't choose the 100% one.
Yes,
Choose
choose
the lower
55 or
glycemic
less.
index.
That's what your target is.
55 or less. Yes, thank you for reminding us. I think we've covered the berries, the leafy greens, and all topics. Low glycemic index. I love how you suggested sourdough. I think that's my new favorite now. Cashew yogurt, and I love how you mentioned that. Please keep in mind for calcium and the vitamin D and other vitamins and minerals that go into the dairy products that we are basically losing out on. So, and again, reach out to your physician or your provider who can help you gauge that in your blood and make that adjustments that you need to keep that bone healthy and so that you can keep moving like a champ to keep your heart health going too.
Yes, and you need
I know we
calcium for
touched,
heart health as well. So, yes.
yes, I know we touched a little bit about going out to the restaurant and eating out, avoiding those mashed potato, choosing grilled versus fried. But we're in Texas. We love steak. We can't avoid it. We are Cowtown in Fort Worth. So, how do you suggest that we go about it? Celebrations means B&B or a great steak restaurant. What do we do?
Yes, so I always choose the lean cut of meat, like a fillet, for instance, instead of the ribeye or the steak that has a lot of the marbling, where that's a lot of flavor. It's also a lot of animal fat. So I'm always going to go with the lean steak. Try to avoid all those extra sauces. I know it's a special occasion, so maybe choose some mushrooms on it. One of the, sauces
Okay.
that has a vegetable. And then for the sides, maybe choose the broccoli over the cream spinach, or if they have sauteed spinach that's not cream spinach, that would be a good choice because spinach is a great food. But when they put all the cream in it, then they're going to put all the salt in it too. Add a lot of, but again, it's a special occasion and you are eating, the spinach. So it's good for you. A lot of vitamin A and fiber and all those things. So, and then, get the baked potato instead of the other potatoes that are loaded. Just watch out for the toppings on the potato, and then a salad. We've already talked about a good choice for a salad, the whole wheat bread or the sourdough bread, and then for dessert, you just gotta know that it's a special occasion, right? But
Yeah. I know you mentioned lean meat, and we love salmon. You've already mentioned that. What kind of lean meat? Like, I know we think chicken, but is there anything other than chicken that's considered lean meat that we can
yes, I mean,
choose?
pork tenderloin is going to be also very lean. So again, you pick of the meat that have the less marbling and the that are going to be leaner. So I eat pork tenderloin often. So I'll choose the pork tenderloin, the beef tenderloin, broiled or grilled chicken. Avoid the skin from the chicken. If you go to a
Okay.
party and they have fried chicken, that just take the skin off, and the part that's inside is not going to be as high in fat and sodium. It will get a little bit of it, but it's going to be a lot better choice just to not eat the skin from the chicken. Yeah.
Yeah, those are great suggestions. Thank you. I know we spoke about the dressing, the sauce, and the steamed vegetables and all of that. How I know surviving with hypertension is difficult. I know surviving with diabetes is hard. But I think all of what we've spoken about can hopefully make it easier for everyone. And I cannot thank Mrs. Margaret here enough to spend this time taking time out of her day and just giving us these options that we can have these life-changing moments and still enjoy our food. It's not a life sentence, correct?
No,
We
we can still have some fun and enjoy some really
Fun.
delicious food.
Right. So for everyone, this is Mrs. McDonald, and her website is mmcdonaldnutrition.com. Please go in there, learn more about her. And if you are interested, she can help you make a plan or a diet plan or help you with your condition. Her main forte is health and wellness and clinical nutrition. So talk to her, and I hope you all learn something new. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. Thank you, Mrs. Margaret, for being here today on this show, and imparting some knowledge. I learned something new, that dates is something not to be worried about. I love dates and I always feel guilty, like how much sugar, because it tastes so sweet. But thank you so much for sharing that part of wisdom and a lot more wisdom and even meal planning and wonderful recipes you've shared with us today. I think I learned quite a lot on cooking too today. Hopefully, I reserve a seat at your dinner table one day, and and keep your heart beating steady. I'm Priya for On the Beat, and Mrs. McDonald. I know you have a special program that you're starting next week. Would you like to say a little bit about that?
Yes, so I love this program that it's a 12-week program, but it's taught virtually. So you can learn on your own time. And we have a book that goes along with it. And then I have a way for you to see teaching videos that I'm gonna share with you during the course of the 12 weeks. And so we focus on one nutrition or wellness topic a week that you have time to focus on and try to develop habits. We even have an interactive app on the telephone that you answer questions and it keeps you accountable and motivated. And then we move on the next week to another topic for the course of the 12 weeks. And right now I'm doing a half price special, and it's going to start on Tuesday. So go to my website and click the buttons for 12 Fixes to Healthy and sign up. And I will teach many, many good nutrition and wellness tips to help you lose pounds, lose inches. Many people who take this program have a reduction in their blood pressure and their cholesterol. So it's an overall healthy program for anybody with any diagnosis or disease. I can steer you around any kind of diagnosis or disease that you may have, but it's an overall wellness. It's not a diet, it's a nutrition and wellness program that teaches you good, healthy tips that are not fads. So, yes, science based. And yes, and so we're going to start the program on Tuesday. So contact me so I can get the information to you and get you signed up on the website and on the app.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for explaining a little bit about that. And don't worry, if you haven't caught all of that, I'll make sure to leave the link and the website at the bottom of the description in below the video. So you can go there and reach out to Mrs. McDonald's here. And thank you so much again. And for On the Beat, I'm Priya. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great day. Bye, everyone. Bye, Mrs.
Bye.
McDonald.